No.
Welcome back, everybody. So we're going to move into our panel presentation on the opioid epidemic. And we've already informally met Tracy Ibbotson, but I just want to introduce you to her again. She's going to be helping to moderate this morning's panel. First and foremost, I'd like to say that I graduated with Tracy at Leadership SouthCoast in 2009, so she was part of my class. Yes. So I was so thrilled when she wanted to help Leadership SouthCoast this year put today's program together. So thank you so much for all of your wisdom and ideas around today's agenda. And that's really what we hope you all will feel inspired to do after you become graduates is, help create the program for us again. So Tracy is she's the Director of Community Health Benefits and Volunteer Services at St. Anne's Hospital. She's been in that role, she's been at St. Anne's since 2003. In her role, she's responsible for strategically aligning the resources of St. Anne's Hospital with the needs of the community and to facilitate the organization's relationship with partner organizations to promote wellness, assist in prevention, and improve the health status of the populations being served. So thanks again for being here, Tracy, and I'll just hand it over to you now.
Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah. Thanks, my pleasure. It was a real pleasure. You can see, having have Jen leading the Leadership SouthCoast, what a pleasure she is to work with. So it was a real joy to put today's agenda together. And hopefully you're going to find it very meaningful. And as Dave Weed alluded to, we left the issue of the opioid addiction crisis to be its own topic because it is such a major topic and such a major public health issue currently. So we want to leave that impact on you today, make that impact on you today. So it's my pleasure to moderate the panel that we put together for you today. I'm just going to introduce our panelists, and then we'll come back to Colleen, and each of them will speak to you about 10 or 15 minutes. And we're going to ask you to hold the questions to the end, and then we'll allow for questions, and we can elaborate on any issues that you want to hear more about. So, beginning the program here, directly to my left is Colleen LaBelle. She actually served on Governor Baker's opioid task force. Colleen, welcome. Next to Colleen is Stephanie Perry. Stephanie Perry is actually a nurse and a certified addictions nurse specialist at St. Anne's Hospital. And she's going to be talking today about stigma, and she's going to humanize the epidemic with us, as she does at St. Anne's Hospital. Next to Stephanie is Jennifer Bloom. Jennifer is the nurse manager of the Charlton Family Center Unit of the SouthCoast Health System. And Jennifer is going to speak to us today about substance-exposed newborns. I don't know if you saw the newspaper release lately, but that's a major issue, and it's a major issue in our county. Next to Jennifer is Captain Joseph Cabral. Captain Cabral is on the Fall River Police Department, and he's going to speak today about the public safety perspective as it relates to the opioid epidemic. We work closely with Captain Cabral. He serves on our community benefits advisory committee, so he's very engaged in the community programs and the community addressing the opioid epidemic. And next to Captain Cabral is Robin Quinterno. And Robin is the Program Director of Ambulatory Behavioral Health Services at STAR, the Stanley Street Treatment Resource Center. And she's going to talk today about treatment and recovery. So I'm going to turn it over now to Colleen.
It's great to see all of you, everybody who is interested in this really important topic. So I'm just going to kind of give you kind of a whirlwind tour really fast. I have no disclosures to report. So for those who may not be aware, I think everyone pretty much is at this point, people are dying more from overdoses than motor vehicle accidents. The thing that I think most of us don't know, but we have felt the impact of, is in Massachusetts, we've had this statistic since 2005. So I always say, like, where's everybody been? This isn't new. Like, we've been dealing with this for a long time, but now it's a national trend, which is really disturbing. The Northeast corridor was impacted by this way before everybody else, but now those numbers are more startling and are impacting people everywhere. In Massachusetts yesterday, we lost 4 to 6 people. 4 to 6 fatal overdoses. And the data shows us that for every fatal overdose, there's 8 to 10 reversals. So just imagine that, 40 to 50 people yesterday actually did overdose and didn't die, and 4 to 6 did die. Staggering, staggering numbers. And those numbers are higher than what we saw at the peak of the AIDS epidemic, which I actually was very engaged and worked in that epidemic at that point, which was very devastating. But this, I think, just has a whole different level of involvement and impact that we're all seeing. And where is this coming from? And I'm sure Cabral will talk about this and others will, but the fentanyl is driving this in a ridiculous way. It's not so much the prescription opioids, which we all want to talk about and think is the issue. Prescribing patterns have decreased. Things are getting better. But it takes a while to see that change, but unfortunately, as that gets better, an unintended consequence of that is if you have a substance use disorder, now you can't get prescription drugs, what are you going to do? You move to street drugs, which you have no idea what you're doing or what you're taking and what that supply looks like. And so that was initially heroin. So now it's heroin, fentanyl, and carfentanil. Is everyone familiar with carfentanil? So carfentanil is a form of fentanyl, which is called the elephant tranquilizer. So it's even more potent than fentanyl. And so people are using this and literally dying on impact, so to speak. It's really horrible. So what we're seeing in Massachusetts, unfortunately, even though we've been ahead of the curve as far as treatment and resources and being out there and talking about this for such a long time, is we're still seeing this crazy trajectory where it's still increasing. The national data was stating that we were going to actually peak in the epidemic in 2017. I'm just hoping we're there, because I don't know how much any of us can take more than this, but we've seen this 350% increase in fatal overdoses in this state in the last 15 years. Even with all the Narcan and all the treatment and all the resources and all the people, all the boots on the ground that's going on. And for 2016, we're actually going to hit over 2,000 fatal deaths. And so this just shows you, in Massachusetts, 76% of overdose deaths occurred in people under the age of 50. And so I don't think this is news to any of us. The population we're seeing impact is like that 25 to 40 more so, but then the 18 to 24-year-olds are pretty significant as well. Really, really horrible. Much more in the male population, but the females are not too far behind that. And in 2015, 2 out of 3 people who died were younger than the age of 45. Just think about that. So the population who we're losing, it's like an entire generation is being wiped out. The Surgeon General is very committed to this, and I don't think there's any prescribers in the group, but he sent a letter out to every prescriber in the entire country, 2.3 million people, asking them to pledge, to get on board, to take a stand and be a part of the solution, to prescribe more safely, to watch what you're prescribing, how much you're prescribing, and to treat the addiction, treat substance use disorder as a disease. An amazingly impactful person. If you ever hear of him showing up somewhere, I would encourage you to go see him or to pull him up on YouTube on the video Space the Nation. He did an entire thing on the substance use epidemic, as well as he has a Facebook page and he has a website and what have you, and lots of information around addiction and resources there, which are really great. Our president, for the first time in the country's history, talked about addiction as a disease and got engaged and got involved. I think this is really what's really changing the trend, is seeing our national leaders. Leadership is critical. If people at the top are not on board, things don't trickle down, things don't change. And so by getting leadership on board, Congress agrees on nothing, right? But they do agree on the epidemic. They agree that we need to treat this and we need to do more. It's the only place where there's been bipartisan agreement. The Health and Human Services Administration, federally, I'm not talking statewide, federally has 3 objectives that were put in place in March of 15, talking about prescribing practices, improving them, about getting Narcan, which treats reversal of overdoses, and expanding access to treatment, medication treatment. Because we know we have evidence-based medicines that work. We know we have very few. They're not perfect, but they're all we have, and we know that they do work for folks. Obviously, saving people when they overdose is critical, and then if we got to change how we're prescribing, and that in fact has happened, and maybe a little bit too much in the other direction now, because now we're seeing people that really can't get their medication or being treated in manners that are probably not so appropriate. So the pendulum swung maybe a little too far in the other direction. So the treatment gap, this is really staggering. If we were sitting here talking about diabetes, and I were to say to you that only 1 in 10 people who had diabetes is in care, you would be outraged. And we would be like, okay, what are we going to do? This is a public health emergency. How do we fix this? But that's what happens in substance use. The majority of those with substance use disorder are not even in care. And there's so many reasons for that. Access to treatment, as we well know, access to good treatment, evidence-based treatment, not taking people's insurance, and the stigma. The stigma is a huge issue, which Stephanie is going to talk about. So we know that overdose deaths decrease when we give people opioid agonist treatment, and so this just shows you that. So the red line is the overdoses going down as you're giving patients buprenorphine and methadone. So national data shows us very effective impact when we treat patients with medication. There was a UMass study that was done in Boston that looked at the Medicaid data with those with an opioid use disorder and showed that those that were on methadone and buprenorphine versus those with that disorder without being on methadone, those had a 73% mortality. So people die when we don't treat them. People die coming out of our criminal justice system because we're not engaging them into treatment. And so that's, those are places where we need to make a difference. Addiction is a disease. We all make bad choices in our lives, but it doesn't typically hijack your brain, change your brain chemistry, and now you need a drug to feel normal. And that's what happens when someone uses. It doesn't happen the first time. Well, it may, but it doesn't typically happen. But it happens over time, and that brain chemistry literally changes when the person needs that drug to feel normal. So I kind of just touched on this, so heart disease, diabetes, cancer. So again, these folks have chronic relapsing diseases. We treat them as chronic diseases. We never call them chronic relapsing diseases. We don't judge them. We don't kick them out of care when they fail. We don't kick the diabetic out who shows up in the emergency room for the 5th time and has had her toes amputated and her blood sugar is 600 and she's still eating the hot fudge sundae and she's not monitoring her diet, not taking her insulin, and her kidneys are shutting down. We treat her, right? Because if we don't, she's going to die. Or the hypertensive patient who's having chest pain, not taking their meds, had another heart attack, needs another stent, we treat them. The person with substance use, unfortunately, we don't treat so well, and we do kick them out of care, and we do tell them that they failed and they need to go somewhere else. But we know that when we treat those diseases, so this is the person with high blood pressure, they come in, their blood pressure's off the wall. What do? We try to figure out how do we manage that. We get that blood pressure under control with meds, diet, change in lifestyle, and what have you, and that person does well. Now they think they're fine, they stop their medicine, or they stop doing things and changing their behaviors back. Their diabetes goes, their hypertension goes back into an acute stage. So that's what happens with someone with substance use. When we treat them, they do well. When we stop, they don't do so well. Does it mean everyone needs medication? No. But a lot of people do need medication, same as the diabetic. That diabetic maybe had just used diet and control their behaviors. And we all know how hard it is to change behavior. I don't know how many people made a resolution on January 1st, and if you're still actually following that. So just think about that. But that some diabetics can change their behaviors and their diet or they're hypertensive and manage their disease without medication. The same goes with substance use. But a lot of folks do need a higher level of care, do need more intensity, do need counseling and therapy and medications to help them with their disease. Substance use costs society lots and lots of money, $400 billion annually. And so people don't think about it as in a workplace issue, which we do a really bad job addressing this in the workplace. No one talks about it, no one tests for it, unless you work for Home Depot, they'll do it. You're on screen if you go there, but if you work in the healthcare field, no one tests you. It's pretty crazy. But the expenses and the loss of productivity when you're working with someone who's struggling with substance use, who isn't getting care, they're not carrying their weight. They can't possibly do that. The impact on the law enforcement, the criminal justice system, that revolving door, the repeat recidivism that occurs, the motor vehicle and other, bad events that happen in people's lives from using. So the cost hits all of us. It hits society, homelessness, violence, crime, our communities, our families. Everybody is impacted when substance use is going on. So people say, send them to detox. Let's get some more beds. This makes me crazy. Detox is not treatment. For anyone who wants to hear that, I'll give you that soapbox forever, but it's not. If you go to the emergency room and you have chest pain, we treat your chest pain. We get your chest pain under control, but then you get admitted, and you get evaluated, and you get cardiac echoed, and you get cardiac cath, and you get open heart surgery or a stent or what have you. That's treatment. Detox is not treatment. Detox is just that, detox. And when you just detox somebody, the relapse rates are outrageous, because all you've done is taken that drug away. All you've done is getting that chest pain under control, but it comes back if we don't treat the disease. So So why do people relapse? Moms send their kids out of state all the time. This is happening more so now. You know, they send them to Florida, they remortgage their houses, they spend $30,000 to put them into treatment, and they do that and they come back and they use again. And mom goes, I don't understand, why did he do that? He just detoxed. Well, because his brain is screaming at him to use drugs. His brain chemistry's changed, and that brain chemistry just doesn't flip back in a nanosecond. They're still craving. The brain still needs that drug to feel normal. Their receptor got reset to a higher than normal level. Normal's here. Somebody who has substance use, that goes higher than that. That's that big euphoria they feel. And so now they're not comfortable in their own skin. They're depressed. They're anxious. They can't sleep. They can't eat. Their legs are hurting them. And they can't socialize. And they walk into Disney and they go, I don't get it. What's everyone all excited about? So they just don't feel the pleasure. And I don't know if anyone can ever imagine going through life, as hard as it is, and not feeling pleasure. And so that's that protracted abstinence syndrome. That's the long-term part of substance use. That's why people pick up again. Yeah, they went through the physical withdrawal, which was horrible. 7, 10 days, physical withdrawal, feel miserable, but you can live through it usually. And you get through that, then you still have the mental component of it. The disease isn't cured, it isn't gone away. And so we have to treat the head, because it's kind of connected to the rest of the body, and what else is going on with that person. So gold standards is treating patients with medication. So again, someone uses opiates, they get a euphoria, but over time that gets less and less and less. You'll hear your patients say, I just use to feel normal. I don't want to enter the red zone. So if they don't use, they go into withdrawal, and they're horribly physically sick. When we give them medications, we make their brain, put their brain into a normal place, replacing those changes that's occurred. We don't have time to get into this, but we only have 3 medications. We have hardly any tools in our toolbox. If you have diabetes, there's a ton of different drugs. If you have high blood pressure, there's a ton of meds to manage you. You have HIV, you have addiction, you've got barely anything. We have buprenorphine, which you can give in an office setting. We have naltrexone, which you can give in an office setting, comes in an injection. And we have methadone that you go to a methadone clinic for. Those are the 3 options. None of them are perfect. None of them are without their, pros and cons. They all have. And it's about balancing a treatment with a patient. And does this work for everybody? Absolutely not. But it does work for men. And so again, it's not perfect. So where are we now? So this is like Pandora's box to me. So we decreased prescribing. Great thing. We're all excited about that, right? So we're stopping the prescribing of opioids, giving people 120 after they go get a wisdom tooth taken out or a knee replacement or what have you. But at the same time, we didn't expand access to treatment. So getting treatment becomes a problem. So you stop prescribing, where do those guys go? So these guys that were getting overly prescribed were prescribed for years on end that shouldn't have been on medications. Did we treat them? Did we have a conversation with them? Did we get them into treatment? Unfortunately not. And so a lot of those folks are ending up on the street, but then they can't get into medication. And so it's driven people to this black market, which is a really scary place for folks who have never used on the street, and now their prescription, which probably wasn't appropriate, just got shut off. So we can't just stop people and just like, hey, have a nice day, I'm firing you, which is what some providers will do. So there needs to be something in between that. Like, how do we get those folks to treatment? How do we have conversations with them that are challenging? And how do we get them the care that they need so that they don't have a fatal outcome or something else bad that will happen? So just leave you with this quote, our lives begin and end the day we become silent about the things that matter. So when we treat people, it saves lives. It's not perfect, but it definitely, it helps what we're going through right now. This is a pretty horrible time. It is a pretty dismal picture. I mean, we are very fortunate in Massachusetts in that we have more resources than any grade.
Thank you.